Hi, this is Rachel with Backcountry Hunters and Anglers. I am here with Ryan at Vortex Optics at the new Edge shooting facility in Wisconsin. Now at BHA, we really want to make sure that all of our members have access to great information on how to become very proficient with your equipment so you can be the most effective killer when you're out hunting that you can be. We're going to cover a few topics here with Vortex as it relates to your optics when you're shooting rifles and some other great tools that they have for you through a segment we're calling Get Dialed. So welcome, Ryan. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. One of the first topics I'd really like to cover is when you're going out and you're going to buy a rifle, you need to decide what kind of optics you're going to put on your rifle. So if you could go through with folks some of the key features when it comes to purchasing a scope for your rifle and how to pick out the best scope for their needs.
Yeah, very common question we get here at Vortex Optics, and a lot of this is personal preference. So when you're looking at this, a couple of things that I like to dial in on first is what kind of rifle and where are we going to be using it, so that we don't have something that's either too low in magnification, too high in magnification, too simplistic, or too complicated. Give us a holler or shoot us an email. We're happy to walk you through that. Today we're going to look at a rifle that's focused more so probably on western big game hunting, so think mule deer, western whitetail, pronghorn, elk. So we've got a rifle here chambered in 6.5 Creedmoor, and when we were trying to pick out an optic for this one, we wanted something that was at home in the mountains, out on the prairies, so we picked something with fairly wide magnification range. We've got our new LHT 4.5 to 22 here. This is a rifle scope that is designed to be dialed or designed to hold over for targets at distances. As we know, hunting the west, we might get into some pretty sporty shots. It's not overburdening for the rifle as far as magnification goes. It's pretty lightweight as well. This rifle here, Weatherby, is pretty lightweight also, so it's a good pairing. It's an appropriate setup. A scope like this, I think, is absolutely at home on a rifle like this for the intended use and game that we'd be hunting with it.
So actually, one of the things I'd really like to answer for people, and actually if you could grab the box right there, when you are going out and you are going to pick a rifle scope, on the back end of the box, which you just rattled off, you rattled off all of these numbers right here.
Yeah.
Can you just really quickly explain to folks what each of those mean?
Sure. So the biggest thing when you're looking at magnification range and objective diameter, these are the numbers expressed here. So 4.5, 22, and 50. Starting on the far end here, 4.5 is the lowest magnification of the rifle scope. So when we dial that magnification way down, 4.5 power, if you will, or 4.5 times what your eye is normally magnifying it to. The 22 on the far end here, or in the middle rather, is the highest end of the magnification range. So we're magnifying that image 22 times what your eye would normally see it as. And the number on the end is most commonly the objective diameter, which is simply this large lens on the end here. So when you're looking at this, and if you're wondering what these things give you, again, magnification, low and high, and then objective diameter.
So here's your objective here, and then always when you're dialing lowest magnification to highest magnification, that is where you find the numbers back here on the back of the scope.
Yes.
Awesome. And when you talked about this is a scope that can be used for holdover or for dialing,
yes,
please explain that.
So reticles, or the crosshairs as they're also referred to, on rifles vary wildly. So you can have very simple crosshairs, often referred to as like a V-plex or a duplex or just a simple crosshair. And then they go up in complexity and features from there. So in the case of the LHT 4.5 to 22, we're going to jump into a few things here, so bear with me. This is a first focal plane rifle scope. We'll get to that in a little bit. The reticle style is often referred to as a grid type or a holdover with windage call-out reticle. So when you look at this, it's often associated with a Christmas tree in shape. So you have your standard XY axis. There's a series of hash marks on there. They're graduated a particular amount, which we can jump into in a little bit. And then beneath the left and right quadrant of the rifle scope, in the field of view there, is going to be a series of dots. These are also spaced strategically. And long and short of it, it's used as holdover points for windage calls at distance. Look at it kind of like the game Battleship, if you will. So you'll have a dot correspondent to a wind value at distance.
Awesome.
Yes.
And for more information on things like this, my guess is that you guys have some amazing videos on your website that can then further explain to folks so you can educate yourself on what kinds of reticles are out there. So you can make this as fancy with a lot of tools as you want, or you can make it as simple as you want. It's very much up to you. You can start out simple and then you can proceed to some more advanced technology.
To jump into first focal plane real quick, because this is something you're going to hear more and more. A first focal plane reticle, for I guess the easiest explanation I can come up with, your reticle will always be the same size relative to your target regardless of what magnification you're on. When you're looking through the scope, what you're going to see is a small target, a small reticle at low magnification, and at high magnification, a large target, a large reticle. It's commonly thought that the reticle is growing and shrinking. The reality of the situation is actually staying the same size as the target, or relative to the target rather, as you change that magnification range. In a second focal plane rifle scope, which is probably the more common option for most hunting scopes, so if you're familiar with that traditional 3-9, 4-12, the enormous majority of those are second focal plane. This is important to note that if any reticle subtension or any line, dot, or feature on that reticle is present, they're only going to be accurate relative to the target size at a given magnification. This is called your subtension magnification. The, I guess, nuts and bolts of this is a first focal plane reticle. You can hold over on any of those marks, lines, or dots in the reticle at any magnification. On a second focal plane, you have to be on a specific magnification. It's typically the highest. Advantage here to an optic like this, being first focal plane, as it does have a pretty high top end at 22x, you might not find yourself wanting to shoot at 22x the whole time. If you dial back to, say, 14, 16, your reticle doesn't change. You can still use your holdovers if need be. A second focal plane, again, remember, you have to be on a specific magnification to use those holdovers.
And if someone is interested in not doing a holdover method, and they're interested in dialing their scope,
yes,
how does one go about getting the correct dial, getting the correct information?
Sure. So understanding exterior ballistics, and that's a big one right there, is very important. So most ammunition manufacturers these days are posting velocity on the box. And it's a good starting point. Understand that individual rifles are going to show individual numbers. It's very important, in my opinion, that you chronograph your rifle first and foremost. This is a device that's going to measure the speed of your bullet, and then using a simple ballistics calculator, and this is something you can download on your smartphone, or you can just go to Google and type in ballistic calculator. There's a wonderful variety of them. Head on to Federal Ammunition's website. They've got a great one. We've got one on our website too. It's called our LRBC. You're going to plug in a few figures: your zero distance, your bullet weight, a figure called ballistic coefficient, which is effectively a measurement of how well that bullet cuts air, and your muzzle velocity, and a few other environmental factors to help make this more robust data. Run that through the calculator, and it's going to populate what we call a drop chart or a drop sheet or a dope sheet. The numbers on there are correlative to holdover value at a given distance. So the particular rifle scope that we have here is subtended in MOA, or minute of angle. So we would want to display that chart in MOA and then just dial accordingly. So I'm going to throw out some numbers here. They're not related to anything. Let's say we run this 6.5 Creedmoor through this calculator. We find our muzzle velocity is X, our ballistic coefficient is Y, populate all this data, and we look at a 1,000 yard target, and it says that we need 34 minutes of angle of holdover, or dial input. We would grab the turret, in this case, an exposed turret model that is lift locking, and we would simply rotate it the respective amount. So one rotation here is 15 MOA, two rotations is 30, and then make up the change at the end. You're going to be able to get to a 0.25 margin of error on that. So if you see your drop chart display like 34.6, round down or round up, the choice is yours. I generally think it's better to round up, but that's a whole nother conversation, which we're more than happy to have with you if you've got some questions about exterior ballistics and how to apply it to your rifle scope.
Awesome, that's great information. So again, there's a lot of options for a lot of technology that you can use. Don't let yourself get overwhelmed, because actually when you get into it, it's really easy. I'm a girl that traditionally started with holdover because that's how I was taught when I was young. And then as I've progressed, I've been able to transition to dialing scopes. And it's amazing, and it's super easy once you kind of get all of the information together.
Agreed.
So if people want to educate themselves more, and we always promote that everybody educate yourself as much as possible, and if possible you should attend classes that will teach you more about this. Can folks come to the Edge facility and sign up for classes?
Yeah, hop on our website. Right on the top banner you're going to see a Edge logo. You can open it up. We've got a variety of classwork that's going to be available, and more upcoming here. And yes, we'll have some classes focused on long range hunting, precision shooting, hunter marksmanship, a whole variety and gambit of options that you can enroll in.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, for more information, definitely visit the Vortex website. You can call up the folks here and they'll answer any questions you have and point you in the right direction, and you can sign up for more training. So thanks so much for joining us for this Get Dialed series, and we'll provide more information for you in the series to come.